Hey there, welcome to another episode of Soap Goes to the Oscars. This is episode 55, still in the 1935 Oscars, and the movie I watched was David Copperfield, based on the Charles Dickens book. This one was an Amazon rental, $4.23 with tax, and my average is about $4.10 for these movies. So pretty good. Yeah, it's not a bad price for a movie, especially these days. So I will jump into the Wikipedia. This will probably be a fairly short one. David Copperfield is a 1935 American film released by Metro Goldwyn Mayer based upon Charles Dickens' 1850 novel, A Personal History, Adventures, Experience, and Observation of David Copperfield the Younger. Though a number of characters and incidents from the novel were omitted, the story was adapted by Hugh Walpole from the Dickens novel, and the film was directed by George Cukor from a screenplay by Howard Estabrook and Lenore J. Coffey, who is not credited. The novel was adapted for 3 silent film versions prior to this first sound production. George Cukor, I can't remember offhand which ones, but he's directed at least 2 of the other Best Picture movies that I've watched so far in this series. Let's see, starring W.C. Fields, Freddie Bartholomew, Lionel Barrymore, Maureen O'Sullivan, several others listed here. I'm not going to read. Cinematography by Oliver T. Marsh, edited by Robert J. Kern, music by Herbert Stothart and William Axt, who is uncredited. Distributed by Lowe's Inc., release date January 18th, 1935, runtime 129 or 133 minutes. Can't remember which one this was. I think this was 133 minutes, the version I watched on Amazon. Pretty good version, pretty good copy. It was HD, so it said. It was a pretty clear picture. So I'm not going to go through the story of this. It is David Copperfield, as mentioned. I will say that I felt like, I'm pretty sure I read this in school, and I think I kind of liked it, but it's kind of stuffy British novel made into a stuffy film. So it was fine. It was decent. I feel like they focused a little too much on David Copperfield as a kid, and it didn't leave as much time from when he was older. But it was set up and stuff, and that's fine. Setting up some of the characters. The other thing that I didn't love was the reason I think that I remember reading it was because of Uriah Heep, who is sort of the villain of the book, and he was not really given that much time in this. And again, like I've said before, I sometimes I lose a little focus with these older movies. Like some of them are good, hold my attention better. Some of them, like this one, did not quite as well. So I definitely didn't pay full attention in some places, but Uriah Heep was almost like secondary and thrown away and until the very end. And I remember him from the novel being more involved and more of a villain. And I think, again, like I said, because they focused more on him as a kid, it felt like maybe they rushed him more as a young man. So yeah, it was fine. It was okay. Definitely not the favorite of this one. That still goes to Les Mis. So let's see, production. David O. Selznick dearly wanted to film David Copperfield as his Russian father, Louis J. Selznick, had learned English through it and read it to his sons every night. After failing to dissuade Selznick from the project, Louis B. Mayer, his father-in-law and employer, agreed that MGM would underwrite the production, provided his star child contract actor, Jackie Cooper, was cast in the role of young David. Selznick fought to remain true to the novel's origins and prevailed, and the role went to Freddie Bartholomew after an extensive talent search in Canada and Great Britain by Selznick and George Cukor. This is interesting and kind of disappointing. Charles Laughton, who you may have heard me in a previous episode say that he's kind of become my favorite actor of this of the 30s here, and is already in 3 of the other Best Picture nominees and the winner, including the winner from 1935. He was originally cast in the role of Mr. Micawber, who was actually played by W.C. Fields in this. And he was authentically made up with a bald cap, since Dickens describes the character as hairless. After 2 days' work, he disliked his performance in the dailies and asked to be replaced. It was said at the time that he looked as though he were about to molest the child. Selznick released Lawton, who in turn recommended comedian and Dickens scholar W.C. Fields for the part. A clause in Fields' contract stated that he had to play the part with a British accent. But as he had difficulty learning the lines and had to read off cue cards, he thus speaks in his own accent in the role. His defense: my father was an Englishman and I inherited his accent from him. Are you trying to go against nature? This is the only film where Fields does not ad-lib, and he plays the character in a straightforward manner, although he did want to add a juggling sequence. When this was denied, an anecdote about snakes, which was also denied. Director George Cukor said that when Fields did make a suggestion for a visual bit, such as accidentally dipping his quill in a teacup instead of an inkwell, it was always within the parameters of the character. The result was one of the finest performances of that year. He was good. And there was some kind of comedic moments, like with David Copperfield's aunt and stuff. And it wasn't a bad movie. It just wasn't the best in this bunch. Better than some, probably, but maybe still towards the bottom of the list. So that is about all I have for this one. Keeping it short. I will see you next time.